So here he comes, and for me, this is the last you are seeing me on the stage. Not that I want an applause from you, but just to inform you. So your colleague takes over.
So it's by default that you deserve a round of applause. Please, let's give him a rousing round of applause. Thank you so much, Director of Ceremonies. I'm informed that we are really short of time, so I'll cut short of all the protocols, save to acknowledge and appreciate the presence and the invitation and the hosting by the government of the Republic of Rwanda. It's a marvelous country and a marvelous city, Kigali. It's my first time here, and it's a bit embarrassing as an African to be, at this age, be the first time to come to Rwanda and Kigali. But no excuse is given. But also at the same time, I acknowledge and appreciate the European Union for the support as well as the African Union for both political and financial support to this event. Thank you. Thank you. So this session is actually a session on research to policy. We've got, I think, a couple of presenters who are online. So may I call on stage Ms. Natalia Caldes Gomez from the European Union, European Commission, DG INTPA. At the same time, Mr. Sandor Szabo from also of the European Commission, GRC. Mrs. Emanuela Colombo from POLIMI. Arina Anisie from IRENA, she's online. Ms. Sandra Banda from Strathmore University. And Mr. Giacomo Falchetta from IIASA. Are these presenters here? Some of them should be here, right? Please, may you just come forward? Thank you. Either way. No, you won't be alone. At least if there's some company here. Okay, so whilst they're coming on stage, so just briefly, Ms. Natalia Caldes works as a policy officer from the European Commission on Sustainable Energy and Climate Change, DG International Partnership. She holds a BA in Economics from the University of Barcelona, MSc in Applied Economics from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and a PhD in Agriculture and Natural Resource Economics from the University of Politecnica Madrid. Dr. Sandor Szabo is a PhD from Conivas University in Economics, master's degree from Hull, UK, and also he has worked as a renewable energy policy development in sub-Saharan Africa and involved in the coordination of AFRETEP, RENAF, and others. Currently he works for the European Commission Joint Research Center. Emanuela Colombo is a full professor from Politecnico di Milano, the Department of Energy Thermoeconomics and Energy Modeling, as well as Engineering and Cooperation for Development. She has been in 2016, she has been appointed by the Italian Conference for the Rector as the nominated representative of the academic system with the National Council for Cooperation and Development. Arina Anisie is an analyst on renewable energy innovation at the International Renewable Energy Agency, IRENA, since 2017. She is involved in analyzing innovations for the energy transition based on renewable energy electrification and others. Giacomo Falchetta is a research scholar in the Integrated Assessment and Climate Change Research for the IIASA Energy Climate Environment Program. And he works on the long term on the LEAP-RE since he joined IIASA in 2021 after being affiliated with the Institute as a guest researcher between 2018 and 2019. He holds a PhD from the Department of International Economics of the Catholic University of Milan, and a BSc in Economics and Social Sciences, as well as an MSc in Environmental and Climate Change Economics from the University of London School of Economics. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's just give a round of applause to these presenters. Sandra, I did not get your bio, but I'm sure you will just quickly talk about it later on. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'll start off with Natalia. Caldes, Gomez, if you can just, we want to hear from you on the issue of research to policy. Just some thoughts. You have 8 minutes, and then after that, we have one question, burning question from the floor on your presentation. Over to you.
Very good. Thank you very much. I think I had prepared some slides, but I think we are fine. We don't need them. I think for sake of time, I can just give some words. Well, first of all, thank you very much for the introduction, but most important for the invitation to participate in this panel discussion. As introduced, I work as a policy officer for the European Commission, working in the Director General for International Partnerships. So it's a policy DG in charge of working with partner countries to contribute to sustainable development, eradicate poverty, peace and protection of human rights while protecting European values and interests. And within DG INTPA, DG International Partnerships, I work at the Sustainable Energy, Climate Change and Nuclear Safety Unit. As introduced by, very well explained by my colleague Michela, the EU supports partner countries in advancing in their green and just energy transition through, in a nutshell, it's like a toolbox where we have basically 3 types of support instruments: policy dialogue, implemented through our colleagues in the delegations around the world, as well as from Brussels, provision of technical assistance, and also financial instruments to de-risk investments in sustainable energy, for example, in the form of blending and guarantees. But I will not get in too much in details. Happy to do so, but in another time, but we don't have much time now. So just to introduce the topic of this panel. So it is clear that policymakers around the world to conduct our work, both in the countries as well as in headquarters, we are often faced with knowledge gaps and lack of adequate support tools, which prevent us from being even more efficient and impactful, right? So in this context, we all agree that research can and should play a pivotal role in informing the policy making process, as well as implementing these policies on the ground. However, while many success stories exist, and today we will hear about them, I believe there is room for improvement. With the aim of triggering a little bit the discussion and being a bit provocative, I would like to cite a famous quote from a movie and say, "Houston, we have a problem." You may wonder, what problem are we talking about? Well, from my perspective, having experienced both sides of the coin, I see an opportunity for improvement in fostering a more robust and bidirectional flow of communication and understanding between the research community and the policy community. I believe that with enhanced communication, we can possibly mitigate possible dysfunctionalities, reduce frustration, and optimize the allocation of our precious resources. Allow me a little bit to elaborate on how some of the existing challenges could be addressed. But I'm ready to be challenged, and I'm ready to hear your views on that. First of all, I think as policymakers and practitioners, we should make an effort to provide more guidance to the research community as to what are our priorities, the existing knowledge gaps, etc. Similarly, policymakers should be more aware about the expertise and capabilities of the different research groups and how they can contribute to the policy making process. Also, sometimes we face lack of sufficient resources to conduct the research that is required by policymakers. And I think it's also important to acknowledge that policymakers and the research community, we often work with different timelines. For example, within research projects, it's often that we work in a time frame of 2-3 years, while decision-making process is often much shorter. Also, policymakers are not always aware about the time and effort that it takes to produce solid research, right? So they think that it takes, well, or we think that it takes much shorter than what actually requires to gather data, clean data, do the analysis, etc. And also, as I was saying, researchers are not always aware about the time pressure and very tight deadlines that we often face policymakers. So also, I think there is room to increase early stage involvement and validation by end users, that is policymakers and practitioners in the field of the research products and actions. And I would also like to cite that the communication channels are often different. We need to promote suitable platforms to facilitate exchanges between the research and the policy community. We need more platforms like Libre that contribute to connect continents, ideas, as well as research and policymakers communities in Europe and Africa together. I would like to conclude my intervention also citing some consequences of a better and improved cooperation between research and policymakers. For example, I think we could achieve better informed decisions, which would improve policy effectiveness. Also, we would be more efficient in the use of the limited research funds and match the actual needs and priorities, avoid duplications, and better use of existing research. And also, finally, increase, if we are able to foster this communication, further increase cooperation between policymakers and researchers. I often hear on the one side thinking, okay, no, policymakers, they don't care that much about maybe like very thorough research. And on the other side, some policymakers think, okay, no, research goes too slow, it's too theoretical. No, we need to talk more, we need to understand us better and work better together. But please don't get me wrong, there are many ways and experiences that show how this better cooperation can work. And for example, I can cite two examples. For example, the EU-funded research programs that, for example, Horizon Europe, are the result of a very comprehensive consultation process with the policy DGs. So there is a lot of time in which DG RTD is consulting to policymakers to understand what are the priorities, what are the needs, so that the corresponding programs are put in place. And a second example is the excellent collaboration that we have had over the last few years with the Joint Research Center, as well as many research institutes present today in developing some tools, support tools, that will be presented by Sandor in the next panel discussion, well, in the next presentation. So anyway, sorry, maybe I was a little bit provocative, but I think we need to be aware about this potential room of improvement and how we can foster this closer collaboration. So I very much look forward to hear and learn from your experiences. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much, Natalia, for keeping to time and also being quite explicit to the point. Yes, because you are coming from the policy side, I think policymakers are very good communicators. They've compared to researchers. Researchers are often accused of working in silos. They're not very good at communicating what they're doing. But anyway, I open to the floor. Any burning question to Natalia? Any burning question? Please just raise your hand. Okay, maybe we can then have questions, reserve questions after the presentations. Next is Mr. or Dr. Sandor Szabo from the EC GRC. He's also joining us online. Dr. Szabo, over to you.
Thanks a lot. Do you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, I try to share the presentation.
Also, you have 8 minutes, please. Thank you.
Yes. Do you see the presentation now?
Still coming. Yes, we can see it. You can just put it into presentation mode.
Is it okay now?
Can you put it into slideshow or presentation mode?
If I put it, my screen goes black, but I don't know if you see it now.
Do what works for you. Thank you.
So, thanks a lot for inviting us. I try to be very quick because the time is ticking quite rapidly. Thanks for Natalia for the intro, and I try to follow up where she stopped. So we try to show some practical support to DG INTPA. We were working together with Natalia, and of course it's quite an honor to work with a person who understands what the need are, where we can improve in this communication between scientific research and policy implementation. As we are a part of the same commission, probably this work between us works more smoothly, but there are quite a lot of gaps where we try to address them, and we try to be very practical. So we were working not only with INTPA on the research subject we were asked from INTPA, but we were working with other stakeholders, from delegations, from on-site experts. And here I try to make a case, 3 cases where we try to start to help with a very practical research result to answer questions from stakeholders on the ground. So, for example, we were approached many times by research organizations, but also by practitioners from African countries. How do I know which hospitals in my country need electrification, and how much would it cost? What kind of service level do we need to put in a new camp that we set up? Or what is the reliability of the energy service provision in my country? We cannot travel, you know, to each place where we have project. We want to know what reliability level and what kind of service we can provide. So we have been in the GRC working on energy access issues for a very long time, and we try to transform the tools into kind of interactive solutions that answers these kind of questions. So, for example, when we have the health-related questions, we try to transform the energy tools into a practical tool that you can identify. Okay, we go zoom in a country, we know that there are X hundred health facilities in the countries, and we collect information whether they are electrified or not. We provide the information. If they are not electrified, we try to calculate based on many factors, distance to grid, the population around the health facility, also some information we collect from the health facilities through the ministries and delegations, how much it could be costing to provide electricity to a health facility that was not electrified before. We provide capex costs. We also try to calculate how much would it cost per kilowatt hour, the system that we propose, the cheapest option. It's a very complicated calculation, but it's based on open access data. It can be verified, it can be checked, and I have to say, as a research organization, we also try to publish the methodology, what we do, and we do it in journals that can be checked quite easily, and it provides very good information for researchers as well as policymakers how these questions could be answered. So in the second case, when it's even a more practical question, it's coming up quite often. We need to set up new refugees camps. We need to know what kind of energy provisions we can plan. What is the size of the system we would like to set up? Also, apart from the health infrastructure, we try to answer these kind of questions. We have collected quite detailed information on the existing refugee camps, on the size, locations, also on the energy provisions, and based on that you can make different inquiries. You can go to an actual refugee settlement, you can check the data on what kind of size we are talking about, how many partners there are, how many families, how many households, how many on-site providers, companies are there, and based on that you can also plan your energy needs for the future project. But you can also make a kind of zoom in the neighborhood regions, and then you can get statistics on the existing refugee camps, and you can use it as a base load or estimate for your future needs. This also was how we derived the data, how we put together the need assessment, and how we provided the estimates for the energy provision. It's also quite well published in the methodological paper we have. The most recent question, when a delegation is interested, they were financing certain projects. They are going to finance more health facility and electrification. They want to know if those ones which were already running for a while, are they really running, what kind of service they provide. And now with the very recent development in Benin, for example, we can provide this online data. It's on-the-fly data of almost 20 health facilities. We can tell what is the actual production, what is the actual consumption of electricity, what was the last month or any period of time energy provisions, and what were the demands. We also can also say if there were some cuts or periods when they were not functioning. And you can imagine this kind of information when you have a program that you want to provide more electricity or new facilities with electricity. This kind of information could be very much in the core of the planning and budgeting the new project. So we try to be there, we try to share this data. It's an open access data. You can go on the site and you can see in the next slide the platform address where you can go and check. We have not only energy related information in the African Knowledge Platform, but we also have quite a lot of information on different transportation, other dimensions like climate change or social information, as well as nature protection information. And with this, we try to help not only INTPA, but the whole African community in trying to develop better solutions. And here I stop. My time is over, and please, the floor is yours. I give back the moderator the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Szabo. Yes, I appreciate actually these two examples, and these are very pertinent issues that we are facing in Africa. I think it's the whole of, especially sub-Saharan Africa, issues of health, issues of energy, also compounded with issues of water and the like. And I'm happy that you are also tackling the issue of refugees, energy settings, energy in the refugee settings, and the fact that you are using open source data, which I think opens up and enables access and verification of this kind of data and further research from others who would want to pick it up from there. The floor, I open again to the floor. If there are any questions, burning questions to this practical research. Okay, yes. Please, if you may introduce yourself quickly and then pose your question.
Yes, just I'm in Bidu Adelekon from the Department of Geography, University of Ibadan. He said the platform where we can get this kind of data will be on the next slide, but wasn't shown. How do we assess the contents?
Thank you. Dr. Szabo, unfortunately, your presentation, we could not, the slide deck was not moving. But anyway, I presume we're going to get this presentation shared with all the participants, right?
I already shared it. I will share it again. And in fact, the link to the tools, I will try to put it in the chat now, so you will be able to see it.
Please do that. Yeah. Thank you so much. And because this is quite relevant, like I said, I believe local researchers would want to pick it up from there. I'll move on to the next presenter, Emanuela Colombo from POLIMI. Do you want to move up? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Same applies to you. 8 minutes.
No? Okay.
Yeah.
Can the presentation be given? Okay, thank you very much. My name is Emanuela Colombo. I'm from Politecnico di Milano, technical university in Italy, 160 years of history, and I bring to you the greetings of my rector, the first female rector of Politecnico di Milano in the history. In order to make a link with the previous colleague, it's just my first time in Rwanda, but the previous speaker is having his office less than 10 kilometers from my house back in Italy. So, but aside of this proximity, we also have long-term cooperation with the JRC in ISPRA. I would like to bring some provocative elements, just like the colleague before me, Natalia, which comes from 20 years of experience working in access to energy, sustainable development. We established our UNESCO chair, Energy for Sustainable Development, back in 2012. If you may remember, it was the first year of the United Nations declared as Universal Access Year. Couple of premises, couple of opportunities, and then I would like to bring the added value of IIASA, which is already setting a platform of cooperation between policymakers and scientists. The two premises, the Africa Global Challenge, the Africa Energy Challenge, it has already been mentioned. I don't want to add a single word, except of saying that this energy-climate nexus has never been so crucial. And we have to keep on working on that side, because the Africa Energy Challenge will have a strong impact at global level. One thing I want to mention is that we are living in an era which is a bit of a contradiction. From one side, we have a deep, rapid technological development, but from the other side, we are living in an era of uncertainties. The COVID, the war in Ukraine, and all of these things are harshening inequalities and vulnerable regions. But from the other side, the technological development is coming faster. I remember when we start talking about IIASA and the roadmaps, hydrogen was not something to be mentioned for Africa. Electric cars were not something to be mentioned, but now we are up to there. So we have a lot of elements that are pushing and bringing value. But there is also another very important point. We know that we are in a time in which science is called also to do a work that is beyond science per se. And this is the domain of what has already been mentioned by my colleagues from the DG RTD and DG INTPA, the domain of science diplomacy, with two very important elements. Science for diplomacy, to remind what has been said by DG RTD, new paradigm of international cooperation. We can't do things alone. We have to work together. The global energy challenge is of all of us, not only of Africa. And the other one is energy for, can you go back one second? And the other one is science for diplomacy, which is on the other side, the way to link brinkages, to build bridges between science and policymaker. And this is very much in line with the Europe-Africa innovation agenda. There are some opportunities, and we go to the next slides, that are coming from all the things that have been discussed in the Europe-Africa innovation agenda, the CSC's partnership, which they are very much interested in thematic focus. And then we have LIPA-RE, which has already been an exercise of this kind. And it was an innovation by design when it was designed a few years ago, because of the research and innovation practical action, but also because of the policy dialogue. So it's already a platform which is connecting these two elements. And this is something that can be brought into the new calls, Horizon, Erasmus+, Marie Curie. And we go on to the next slide, and we have four, what I think are four added value of LIPA-RE. The multi-stakeholder perspective. The project was designed in pillars, and in each pillars we have a value. We have the funding agency that are working together, launching cascading calls, but also we have the research community, which is working together between cooperation and competition, and this is also very relevant. The research institution, they have demonstrated commitment because 50% of their budget is given by themselves. So this is very important as well. And we have created a space to generate scientific coordination, but also inclusive participation of additional African countries beyond the countries that are participating to Pillar 1. We can go on, and the second advantage is the scientific approach. We always mention the roadmap. The roadmap are changing, as I have already mentioned. Hydrogen is coming, and many other new technology and vectors are of interest for the continent. But also we have developed, thanks to the long-term partnership, because we start talking about this with the pre-LIPA-RE, that was a CSA, then we talk during LIPA-RE, and then we are ready to talk about the future, because we have developed a comprehensive approach to technology development, which doesn't include the technological development per se, but start from the needs to the people and come back to look at the impact of it. So we have, let's say, in the basket, we have a 1.0 approach that, thanks to the monitoring and evaluation and learning system within LIPA-RE, can be developed into a 2.0 and even more advantages. The third is the impact. You can go on with one slide, please. The third aspect is the impact assessment framework. We have developed LIPA-RE along the result chain, impact, output, outcome, input, output, outcome, and impact. But if you talk with the researcher or if you talk with the policymaker, the interest in this result chain is different. And by putting them together, we have created a framework which allow to develop long-term perspective and long-term, let's say, indicators that can be used today, that can be checked again after LIPA-RE will be over, and that can produce a new framework which is up to date. And the last advantage, and we go on, please, is joining forces. Thanks to the cooperation across the scientific institutes, scientific research institute, we have created a very interesting community. And now, as you can see in a couple of hours, the LIPA-RE Renewable Energy School is institutionalized. So we have researchers that are putting in the same basket their capacity building activities, they are modeling capability, they are data collection strategies, and this is a super big added value of LIPA-RE. And we go to the last slide, just to mention, and I'm closing, that in order to better inform the policy-making process by using the value of the researchers that are coming from the research institution, we need to place ourselves between competition across researchers and also cooperation across researchers. This is a good balance that can give a lot of input to policymaker and can really give value to LIPA-RE in the long run. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think you need another round of applause for being the first female rector at Politecnico Milano, breaking the ceiling. And I would like to encourage and see the cooperation that we are envisaging in terms of capacity building, to see also more female scientists, engineers, taking up the post, I'm not limiting it only to scientists and engineers, but all academicians and others to also take up leadership positions here in Africa and beyond. So that is something that is very commendable, and we look forward to that. And I like your your closing statement on balancing competition with cooperation. I think this is the biggest theme for us, that we need to collaborate, we need to cooperate in order to address these challenges that we are facing globally. And especially for us here in Africa, the biggest challenges for me is in terms of energy, is the issue of energy access and energy security. This has been lingering on our heads for very long. It's time we should address this issue. I think we should stop dithering around it and face it heads on. Any question to Emanuela? Yes, please, sir. If you may just introduce yourself. There's a hand here. Yeah.
Thank you very much. My name is Da Silva. I am the representative of UNESCO chair. I am the UNESCO chair for climate change, resilience and sustainability in Strathmore University. So, Prof, thank you for your presentation. I think that there are so many interesting, successful stories there that it would become a book if you were to put all of them together. But I think I wanted to challenge you in the next station of this, when we come again to work together as scientists. I think there are 3 issues that we can improve. One of them is to involve the community. You said a little bit about the science not to stop as a prototype, but this of community being involved, I think, is very important. Then, the second one is the issue of policy and regulations, because if you don't put policy and regulations to the technology, that thing will have less impact. And finally, I think the third one is communication. I feel that we work so hard, but eventually we hide the thing. No? There are things that are such a well-guarded secret, because we don't have perhaps our website, or we don't have somebody who keep throwing it at LinkedIn and whatever other means of social media. So I want to challenge you on these 3, see what you could say about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Da Silva. Yes, do you want to come in? Yes.
A very short comment. I cannot reply to Professor Da Silva. I totally agree with you, and you are confirming again the value of LIPA-RE, where we have put aside the technological development, all this discourse on the energy needs of the community, and also the regulatory framework, which is, a kind of side-to-side part of the research that goes side to side with the technological development. So we can leverage on it, and we can do it together, because we are all in LIPA-RE. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Now we move on to the next presentation is from another lady. She's joining us online. That's Arina Anisie from the International Renewable Energy Agency. Arina, are you online?
Yes, hello everyone. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Let me share my screen. One participant can share.
Yes, IT, can you? Okay, good. Yeah, we can see you.
I am trying to share my screen, but it says that only one participant can share at a time.
I'm sure IT is attending to that.
Well, meanwhile, I want to thank very much the organizers for inviting me and to present a little bit of IRENA work on innovation, and especially on innovation in Africa. I prepared a few slides, but it seems that I cannot share from my side. If IT can share from their side, it's also fine for me.
IT, can you advise us? Are you working on it? Okay, they are attending to it. So
Yeah,
would you like
it's
to
still not
introduce
working
yourself
from
in
my
the
end.
meantime? Arina?
Yes.
They are sorting out the technical glitches. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay, I will start without the slides, and when the slides are up, I'm happy to pick it up. So my name is Arina Anisie. I work at the International Renewable Energy Agency and on innovation. And I will start with a very big picture for today's presentation, and as previous speakers also in the previous panel mentioned, the Paris Agreement. IRENA analysis suggests that we have to abate by 2050 37 gigatons of CO2 emissions. The good news is that we do have the technological avenues to do this. 90% of all these emissions by 2050 will be abated using renewable energy and energy efficiency. Another good news is that the cost of renewable-based electricity is decreased tremendously in the last 10 years. So now renewable-based electricity is already the cheapest power option in most of the regions. And I see some slides coming. Yes, if you can go to the next one.
Now. Yeah.
Next one, please. Next one, here it's about the 37 gigatons of CO2 emission, and I was talking about how much the renewable-based electricity costs have reduced in the last 10 years. So now renewable-based electricity is basically cost competitive, and in some regions already the cheapest option of electricity, already cheaper than fossil fuel cost range that you can see in the gray area. If you go to the next slide. There, I want to introduce to you a little bit on a systemic innovation approach of IRENA. And what we do want to send a message to policymakers is that innovation needs to go beyond technology. There is a lot of innovation happening in technology, and we see a lot of technology emerging, but we need also to innovate in business models. We need to innovate in regulation and market design to send the right signals to the players, to operate properly, to increase flexibility in the system, to be able to integrate more solar and wind power in the power systems, and also the power system itself is changing, so we need to innovate in how we operate the system for a more centralized to more decentralized system, and so on. And if we go to the next slide, it shows a little bit why do we need innovation in all these 4 dimensions. Basically because the technologies are presenting new opportunities to operate the system, and this translates in innovations in how we operate the system, but we need to monetize this value created. And usually this is given by the right incentive on the market through regulation and market design, which creates business cases, and we need to innovate also in business models to enable new revenue streams for the technologies to be able to further develop. And we have, in the next slide, we have identified 30 key innovation. Next slide, please. For policymakers to look at and choose what is best for their region. These are innovations in, as I mentioned, technology, business models, market design, and system operation, and they aim to help integrate high share of wind and solar in the power systems, and to make the system more flexible to be able to be a renewable-based power system. We have released this report a few years ago, and since then we received a lot of requests to do a similar toolbox more tailored for Africa region, because Africa region, as Mr. Kudakwashe mentioned, has some challenges beyond integrating higher share of renewable in the system that are more related to energy access and energy security beside flexibility. So if you go to the next slide, we are we are in the process of identifying the emerging innovations that are out there that could help achieve a sustainable and socially inclusive growth powered by renewables, especially in the Africa region. So we focused on innovation that can help achieve cooperative and resilient power systems to make the grid stronger and to improve energy security, and inclusive rural development through decentralized productive uses to tackle energy access and go even beyond that. And this is a work in progress. If we go to the next slide, please. Yes, this is a work in progress. This work is not published yet, but it will be published early next year. Here we identify a number of 40 innovations in all technology and infrastructure, business models, and key change agents. Key change agents is a new category that we identified as quite important in this environment, because it's an ecosystem enablers. They're agents for viable business environments. And then innovations in market design and regulation, and also in how to plan the system and how to operate it. I will not go through all these 40 innovations that we identified, but many of them has been mentioned already by previous speakers, and I recall the green hydrogen. It's on the list on the technology part. Electric vehicles. We start talking about also electric vehicles in Africa, but also beyond technology, others are also very important, including business models and market design and how to plan the system. I want just to mention that this is a work that we are not doing in silos. We engage with external experts, especially from Africa, and we had some consultation workshop and some survey, and these 40 innovations have been defined based on these workshops, and this is a little bit of a mix of who participated in this consultation: experts from Africa, the countries, and from electricity utility, but also minister and national institutes, power pool, universities. Just to close with going back a little bit on the importance of innovating in policy, and to have a comprehensive policy framework is key to a just and inclusive transition. There are different kinds of policies, from development policies to integrating policies, enabling policies, and structural change and just transition policies. Structural change and just transition policies are important to improve domestic skills, to leverage local resources and develop homegrown industries, all to allow the energy transition to yield maximum social benefits. So we are not talking only about development policies, but we should go beyond and tackle the whole aspects of the economy. And I will end with a slide on the research, also from a report of IRENA, that points out that research and development spending as a percentage of GDP is relatively low in Africa. It's below 1%, at least the one that it's accounted for and reported. And just for comparison, in OECD countries, it's around 3 to 5%. And basically the core of innovation are public investments in research and development. So I think these forums are very important. In the table, you would see a list of publicly funded research institutes in Africa. So there are a number of them in all regions of Africa, with a little bit more detailed on what innovations that focus on. And I leave on the last slide few references of IRENA reports for information, and if you have any more questions or you want to participate in the review of the upcoming innovation report on Africa with 40 emerging innovations, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to consider you as an external reviewer. I think this is a very important forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Arina. Yes, it's important that you have highlighted some of the critical areas that you are working on, some of your studies, like for example, the issue of costs. I think this is one of the most widely read publication on the costs. Of course, there is still debatable as to whether these costs, are truly reflective for us on the ground here. We are not seeing the same costs. But as you indicated that it's beyond, I think here innovation is beyond technology. We need to look at issues around business models, policies, and others. Maybe this is where then we can see also the reflection of these declining costs here in Africa. And then I think the issue going forward that I picked up is the issue of that you are working on cooperative and resilient power systems. Definitely these will help to improve energy security. And then inclusive rural development, trying to address the issue of access and poverty. Any burning question from the floor? Okay, I'll allow two. One from here and one from the back.
Yes, thank you.
Please forgive me.
Can we start this side?
Introduce yourself, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much to the speaker for the presentation. My name is Professor Mpofu. I'm from the Tshwane University of Technology. I was very interested with the title of the presentation, particularly in terms of ecosystems to take these R&D ideas to market, given that for us as universities, we're working in the R&D space. Unfortunately, I think the talk was a little bit short of that, so I'd like to get some insights. And also, in terms of the renewable energy options that are being spoken about, especially from an African perspective, I think more biomass into the equation could be very relevant to speak about, because sometimes we speak about solar, and as the program director has indicated, some of these costs that are reducing seemingly drastically are not being experienced by the marginalized and the poor. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Can I have this side, please? Please forgive me, we can have further discussions later on.
Okay.
There's no taker.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much. My name is Anjali Shankar. I am on the experts committee evaluating the various LEAPS projects. My comment is basically looking at the first chart, which you presented, really putting the private sector in the center of all the innovation that takes place. I would just like to share an observation and a remark, which is that we all agree that the policy frameworks and the intentions, the targets in terms of renewable energy penetration are now more and more there. That also everybody is working a lot on the business models, and one does see an appetite from the private sector to engage. But what we have observed, let's say over the past, 10 years, is that we see a lot of private sector engaging, but then there is a step between the general policy framework and the planning and the actual implementation in the field. You know, the actual decrees which are really put in place and which allow the private sector to really do the work. What we've also observed sometimes is that, you know, there are rules which are set in terms of what are the villages which would, or areas which would still be allowed away from the grid, and then it changes as planning changes. So maybe one area of work which could perhaps be emphasized is actually the linkage between the policy level work and really making it practical, transparent in the long term for the private sector to be able to engage.
Thank you so much, Prof. I will come back to you, colleagues, after the end of these presentations. Just, Arina, do you want to respond to these two issues, these issues of focus for IRENA?
Yes, thank you very much for the questions. So I have not mentioned the good enough in my presentation, but we are in IRENA, in the innovation work we are doing, we are focusing a lot on emerging innovations. So are the innovations that are not really on the very early stage of research, but more pilot project, demonstration projects, and innovations that are already implemented in other countries, but can be for some other countries can be replicated, there is a value in replicating them, and there are seen more as innovation. So this is what we map in this innovation landscape, and we mapped for Africa 40 innovations, and there is no size fit for all solution, but we just want to shed light of some practices that work in some places and some innovations that are explored in some places for policymakers to look at it and to formulate their directions and to kind of pick and choose from this toolbox which would be the ones that would fit from their country and which would be the ones that could invest more money or target the development of these innovations. There was a little bit of comments, very interesting comments on the private sector engagement, and that's why we see that in Africa it's quite important to have this what we call key change agents that supports renewable-based development programs, and they are not they start a new pilot project or new program with no intention of having a profit, but just for intention of creating value and then attracting further on the private investments and showing that there is potential in this solution, because there is some very risky environments and private sector it's not usually willing to go there unless there is someone else who did this before and see the exact value. So this is the role of key change agents, as we call it, in these areas for fostering the private engagement.
Okay. Thank you so much, Arina.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, we move on to the next presenter. To my right here, Sandra from Strathmore University. The floor is yours. You have a presentation, right?
Yes, I do.
IT, please, may you upload your presentation?
As that is being done, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sandra Banda. I hope I can be seen. I can't be short. I am an engineer at Strathmore University. I'm a project manager under the UNESCO chair, Climate Change, Resilience and Sustainability. Professor Israel da Silva, who is in presence here, is the UNESCO chair at Strathmore University. So my research areas are in green hydrogen and clean cooking, and as well as energy modeling. So first case study here is the Purams project, which is under the Pillar 2, in the Lipari. So just to give some statistics here on clean cooking as clean cooking scenario globally. So we're at 1 billion population in sub-Saharan Africa that are currently using biomass. This is comparison to about 2.1 billion globally. The effects of polluting fuels, 2% of the global emissions is being contributed by the combustion of fuels. And then we have, of course, the effects of death. The current report tracking SDG estimates it at 3.2 million that are being caused by household air pollution. But the most interesting scenario is that if we do not change what we are doing and it's business as usual, it will only be 75% of the global population that will have access, and 60% of that will be in sub-Saharan Africa. So for us, this is very crucial. So the Global Market Assessment is a tool that was developed by MEX, Modern Energy Cooking Services, who are being our great collaborators in this project, and these are just statistics that they gave with this tool. So basically, the Global Market Assessment is meant to identify opportunities and challenges that can scale up electric cooking. So why the 3 countries, Kenya, Rwanda, and Mozambique? That's because that's where Purams is being implemented, in those 3 countries. Kenya scoring at 7th, Rwanda at 76th, and Mozambique at 115th. So basically, this assessment looks at the 3 pillars: economics, infrastructure, the physical, and also policy environment, and just assessing the scalability of electric cooking in these 3 countries. So bringing you back to the Purams project, basically the Purams project's objective is to develop a standalone solar-powered cooking appliance. And just as my colleague from IRENA has mentioned, it's not just about innovation with technology, it's also going into innovating a business model that would work to scale up the cooker, as well as looking at how it will influence policy in the 3 countries, and also the proper technology to use. Next slide. So far, PORAMS has done a good job in collecting data that actually has helped to influence some policy actions, and I'll show you that later on in the slide. But so far, this is data that we collected in Kenya and Rwanda, just to affirm the statistics that I showed on earlier, that still, we still have firewood and charcoal being the most prevalent cooking fuels that are being used. LPG right now is considered a secondary fuel in most households, primary in urban, secondary in rural. Next slide. Okay. And so we used, so after the baseline study, which was a previous slide, so this, we used a tool to kind of assess what would be the electric cooking potential in the 3 countries. So we surveyed around 150 households, 100 in Kenya, which were recently electrified, 50 households in Rwanda that are electrified through mini-grids, and 20 businesses in Mozambique. And there was what we did is that we gave the households, 150 households, EPCs to use over a period of month to cook the normal foods that they would cook with what they were using to cook previously before the baseline study. And there's already an aspect of time saving. If you're looking at ugali, if you've been to Kenya, you know what ugali is, and or Rwanda, if you're cooking rice and if you're cooking tea, there's already cost saving that is realized just by transitioning to your daily foods to cooking with electricity. And so what's currently where the project is at, we're just into the fabrication stage of the prototype. So we are optimizing an electric pressure cooker that was developed by our partners MEX. And this is just a comparison of how the cooker behaves. I'm sorry, I'm about to get less technical, I swear, this is the last slide. And so this is just a comparison of energy and the time taken. And of course, this is a comparison of the DC pressure cooker against the AC pressure cooker that we gave to the participants at the beginning of the study. Of course, if you consider that when you are using a DC appliance, your power is not stable, so it will take longer. But if you're looking at the transition effects, in rural communities where they mostly use biomass, then still transitioning to this makes sense. So how is PORAMS currently contributing to the policy conversation? As I mentioned before, the project has done a good job, number one, in providing data that is influencing policy. It has brought on board collaborators. In Kenya, we are working with EPRA. So this is a graph from one of the reports by MEX as well. Strathmore University is somewhere at the bottom there in 2020. And this just represents the trajectory of electric cooking in Kenya, electric cooking sector in Kenya, and how it, please go back, whoever has gone ahead. Thank you. So we have a member of EPRA, I don't know if he's still here or he's stepped out, Dr. Musonye. And literally this project is we're working with the regulator to be in line with what they do want to achieve for the electric cooking sector. Amongst the other players here that include global partners, academia partners, as well as private sector partners. Okay, thank you. So next slide. The project also, we've been working with KPLC, UK Pact to develop an INTPA comparison of different appliances to sort of not just sway consumers on electric cooking, but also now to influence policy on the policymakers on the direction to focus on. Just doing a comparison of common foods that are cooked and giving numbers that could actually sway the conversation into a direction that could advance clean cooking technology. Last slide. And we are also working at the quality ecosystem of appliances. My colleague Anne will be giving, at one of the thematic sessions, she'll be speaking on this, so please on Thursday. This is a very interesting conversation on the quality landscape in Kenya. And so please attend that and see how we're helping influence the standards conversation in the country. And also now through our partners in Rwanda, who help. There is a model already that they work with ECDL and BRD to sort of make private sector companies be ready for the financing, the result-based financing that comes from this project. So there's already examples that the PURAMS project could borrow from to kind of implement the objective of the project. My time is up, so thank you.
Thank you so much, Sandra. I feel it's a bit unfair to cut you short because this is a topic close to my heart, where solutions are there, but personally, it's a personal opinion, I feel that the solutions are still a mirage for me. I wish but I hope with your study, these solutions are going to end that vision that I have, that is a mirage. Okay, so any burning question, one question? I've been reminded only one question. Let's entertain only one question so that we can, yes, there's a hand at the back there.
Thank you so much for this interesting presentation. My name is Manzai. Oh, you want me to stand? Okay. Thank you so much for the presentation. My name is Manzai Diale from South Africa, the University of Pretoria. The question that I have for you is for your communities. What are they saying about the taste of ugali or papa or sasha? You call it sacha? Sadza. When you have cooked it with an electric pot as compared to open fire. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is this on? Okay, yeah. So that's a very interesting question because we literally got asked that during the study, and one of the things that we did during the exits study was to ask the households how they did perceive using the electric pressure cooker when we did the study with the AC pressure cooker. One of the advantages was ease of use. With the taste for ugali, it was a shock to them that actually it wasn't much of a difference because they're used to cooking with charcoal. The difference is, yes, identified, but it is still something that it's manageable that they could adopt to. Because now they're used to cooking with charcoal and firewood. And so with the ease of use comes in now, are you willing to adapt to a new taste if it takes less time for you to set up your cooking appliance? So there was mixed, what I'm saying is that there was mixed reactions, but it was positive as well.
Thank you. Thank you. It's always a challenge, to manage the tastes because we all have different tastes. Thanks for that question. Let's move on to the last presenter, Giacomo. Talking about the nexus, right?
Good afternoon, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Giacomo Falchetta, and I am the co-project leader of the RE4 of Agri project, Renewables for African Agriculture. If you could share the slides, please. Which is a project of Pillar 2 or Package 12, and we will be trying to bring here our example of how science and policy interactions are examined in our project. Next slide, please. Just to give you a background of what we are talking about. So we are talking about the agricultural sector in sub-Saharan Africa and the question of how important it is in terms of employment, income source, and in particular in terms of the smallholder farmed agriculture, but at the same time, how much it is constrained by the lack of secure access to efficient solutions that can provide water, energy, and services for the sector to have communities thrive in and to tackle issues such as food security and income insecurity. Next slide, please. Examining a bit the data that underlies this dimension, it's clear how most development gaps in terms of energy, water, access to food, poverty are still to be open under business as usual trends by 2030. and how these challenges are also overlapping in space, so they require an integrated analysis for policy and for business implementation. Next slide, please. And here, this is where our RE4AFRAGRI project steps in, namely trying to assess technologies, policies, and business models to implement solutions that are viable to tackle these gaps and promote services such as irrigation, crop processing, cold storage, that can leverage the unlocked potential, the locked potential of the African agricultural sector. The aim of our project is to start from societal needs in terms of resources and services to move to technologies that can meet these needs. So depending on the specific question, something from solar pumps to milling facilities to cold storage for vegetables and dairy products, and then ultimately to engage stakeholders and come up with model-based research, on the one hand, from the science point of view, that can be used by European and African researchers, and business models and policy-making tools and insights that can be used to promote these solutions. Next slide, please. Our consortium is built by several African and European partners, experts of both science, business, and policy, and seeking to target the entire continent, so with a diversity of approaches and settings. The first output of our project consists of a research-focused but policy-relevant in terms of results modeling platform, which is open source and can be used by researchers and to inform policymakers about water and energy and land needs in terms of resources, infrastructure, and investment. Next slide. This type of modeling-based insights can provide outlooks for policymakers to assess gaps in terms of resources and have very specific investment outlooks to meet under different scenarios and policies the proposed goals. We also make this model-based output available in interactive dashboards that are accessible to stakeholders with non-technical backgrounds, so for policy and business actors. So if you could go on, for different countries, this is made available, and for different sectors and needs, as you can see from the slide. And this is just a demo of how these dashboards work. They are accessible under our website, re4afagri.africa. However, our project does not only focus on needs and model-based outputs, but it also has a strong emphasis on the business side, so on how to implement solutions. And here, our partner TFE has developed a techno-economic model, which is an open source tool specifically designed for business actors, for developers of water energy solutions in the agricultural context, that can be used to support business decisions, and it's also made openly available. This tool has been used to carry out an assessment in 4 country studies, an assessment of starting from the regulatory framework of the energy in the agricultural value chain systems, up to going down to the business models to implement solutions. So this report is exemplifying how these business tools that we have worked on can be used to leverage investment in the sectors. So to connect a bit the dots, our project sought to link the science dimension in terms of assessing needs and the impacts of different policies with the techno-economic modeling and analysis of the implementation side, so on the private sector role in this process, and up to the evaluation of framework and hurdles for the policy side. Next slide. If you are interested in these topics and would like to learn more, on Wednesday afternoon, tomorrow afternoon, we will have a session just here in this room, which will be focused on how our tools can be used to make better, more robust and sound decisions, especially focusing on the business side, so those interested in the developer space, let's say. And also we will be present with some contribution with the transversal workshop during the forum and in the reschool with some more research oriented lectures on our modeling tools. Next slide and last slide. As part of our project, we also ensure that our research tools are disseminated through capacity building activities. So for instance, next week we will be in Addis Ababa to carry out a week-long training for more focused on the scientific side of things. Part of it can be followed also online, so if interested, reach out to me. And I think with this is everything, and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Giacomo. Any burning question for Giacomo? Water Energy Food Nexus. It's another topic of very high interest for me. Having been piloting some of the WEF Nexus projects in about 5 countries. I tell you, it's not a walk in the park. There are a lot of underground challenges that one faces in trying to address this issue. So I see there are no questions to Giacomo. So I would like to then conclude this session because we're really behind time. So I would like you to give this group of panelists a huge round of applause, please. I'm sure we're going to continue engagements with this group later on. I'm told that at the end, we're going to reduce our coffee break to 10 minutes because we're really behind time. So I don't know whether it's coffee time or it's lunch break, which is which? Can you advise it?
It's a coffee break.
Okay, it's not yet lunch break, right?
Yeah, towards this side, towards the right.
Okay. Thank you so much. I hand over to the Director of Ceremonies. I think we're done, right? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please tell me the